Well, welcome back. I'm Bill Anderson. I'm coming live from the Costa del Sol, and actually, it's not living up to its name today. It's lovely to be back with you live. Glad Dave has managed to get all his technical issues sorted out. And I am delighted for our first show, actually, of this new year to have Marcel Salazar back with me. Your microphone is muted. It's not anymore,
I
Marcel.
just unmuted it. Yeah, absolutely.
How are you doing, Marcel?
I'm very well. I'm very well. I have to say, I'm super excited about this year. It's already started very well, and we're only on the up at the moment. Getting busier and busier, and soon to be opening a new location. So really
Yeah,
happy.
we need to talk about that. But Marcel, you say it's getting busier and busier, so you're seeing more and more people who've hurt themselves. Is that good?
Yes,
Is it?
yes. It's for me. I know it seems a bit macabre, perhaps, but the more people hurt themselves, the more I can help them. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, you just, you just love helping people, don't you,
I
Marcel?
do.
That's what
I
it
do.
is.
Exactly. It's pathological. No, it's
So,
true. I do enjoy helping people.
for those that haven't met you before, Marcel, you are a physical therapist plus,
Mhm.
your personal trainer. I don't know, you do a bit of everything, don't you? And
I've
and
got a little
and
mix, but it's all health related. Yes,
it's all health
I'm not a
related.
very good car mechanic, but I do mechanics of the body.
You do, yeah, yeah. And well, I can certainly speak from personal experience that you do a good job on it. And actually, I've referred quite a number of people to
Brilliant.
you, and they all speak very
You
highly of,
have?
of, of you. And so
Brilliant.
you know what you're doing. But you don't just focus on the body mechanics, do you, Marcel?
No, no. I try to make sure that we cover. There are always multiple bases or reasons for why we have either pain, injuries, things like that, and it's very often the way we move, perhaps our body weight, our awareness, our energies, those types of things. I always like to pay attention as much as possible, and a lot of what my work is investigation. So I
Right.
do a lot of investigating to find out what is the root cause. Well, it might not be what you think it is, or it could be from something else. So yes, there's a lot of looking around the actual problem area.
Right. Okay. So, when we spoke about what you wanted to talk about today, I have to say I was lost because you want to talk about oxidative stress and how it affects
Correct.
us, and I thought, oh my God, we're getting rusty inside.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not too far off it, to be fair. Now, it's not rust,
I
of
know it's
course,
not.
but
I know.
it's not rust. But it is a huge area of science, and very few people really know about it, to be honest. I would be very interested to know if any of your listeners right now are actually even familiar with the term. And if I'm honest, I actually wasn't familiar with the term until I started learning more about nutrition about 6 years ago,
Right.
and it then opened this doorway of huge area of legitimate science and discussion about this oxidative stress. And it sounds. I mean, if you take it logically, oxidation literally means the presence of oxygen, and that's what it's about. That's exactly what it's about. I
Right.
can go into a bit more detail without getting too technical,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's about the presence of oxygen inside the body
Yeah. Well,
and what it does.
I was mentioning to someone. Yeah, we've got a little bit of feedback somewhere. I'm not sure where it's coming
Uh-huh.
from, but
Let
okay.
me see if I can check something.
Uh, right. It seems to have gone from my end. Yeah. Yeah, it's maybe something on your end, Marcel, but don't worry
It might
about
be
it.
me.
We shall get through there. Yeah, I
Is that
mentioned
better?
this to someone yesterday. I was out in an event, and Steve said to me, "Oh, your radio show is going to be coming back on live because he obviously listens in to it." And I said, "Yeah," and I said, "I've got Marcel on tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about oxidative stress." And he said, "Oh my God, free radicals!" And at that at that point, it's like, okay, you've lost me now.
Bingo! He got the nail on the head there. He was absolutely right. Free radicals. That's absolutely right.
Right. Okay. So talk to us a little bit. So it's about oxygen in the body, but don't we need oxygen in the body?
We do exactly. So basically, this is the processing of energy within the body. Now, oxygen is both essential and absolutely fundamental to our processing and to the release of energy.
Right.
But like any major combination or reaction within the body, there is always a byproduct. And the
Okay.
byproduct of oxygen coming into the cell to release certain electrons, you have what's called free radicals. And these are little, it's difficult to describe them. They're not cells, but these are little movements of entity within the body that can cause different types of physiological reactions.
Okay. I'm following
And
you so far,
so, and
Marcel.
so And what you want to do is you want to introduce to your body as many antioxidants as possible. And we can go into detail a little bit later about what antioxidants consist of,
Right.
because what I would like to talk about is what effect does oxidative stress have on the body first.
Right. Well, it's
But
interesting that just the words that you pulled together there, Marcel. It's
okay,
oxidative stress. So,
yeah,
what you're saying is that these kind of things that are floating around our body as a byproduct of this whole oxygenation process,
correct.
do cause stress in the body.
Yes. Yes. And the stress manifests itself in different ways. And that's what's very interesting is that it's actually incredibly broad as to how it manifests itself. So it almost sounds like, well, oxidative stress sounds like a global nightmare because it's literally, it can create all sorts of things relating to systemic inflammation, to degenerative bone conditions, to degenerative joint issues, even to cancer. And it's linked to all these many, many, many different degenerative health problems. So you would think, my goodness, surely we should all know a lot more about it. But actually, like I said at the beginning, very few people actually know that there is a normal reaction to the processing of oxygen within our body to
Right.
release energy via what's called the mitochondria. And that reaction has a byproduct, which are these free radicals, which can then lead to these negative effects of inflammation and things I've just listed.
Right.
But of course, because the body is very, very clever, it absolutely knows how to process and reverse those or filter them, shall we say.
Right.
But it comes down to a number of very important key factors.
Mhm. It's interesting, Marcel, because people use this term antioxidants. I was out at a business breakfast yesterday morning, and the guy sitting next to me ordered a green tea, and two or three people at the table said, "Oh, it's a really good antioxidant." So we actually use these expressions,
Yes,
but I'm sure I didn't. But I'm sure if I had asked them, so what why is it good for you? What is an
exactly.
antioxidant, and what is
What's
it
it good for?
that it's actually combating? I'm sure they wouldn't
Yes,
have had a clue. So
yes,
we do use these terms now, and we picked them up, and they become part of our vocabulary.
that's
But
right.
I think, I mean, I don't class myself as particularly stupid. I can be sometimes, but
Sure.
I'm not exceptionally stupid. But I have to say, I don't understand what that process is. So
So it's very broad.
yeah,
But antioxidants are effectively the parts that, without getting again too technical, they are the entities from mostly our food and nutrition
right.
that counteract the byproducts of toxicity
Okay. So
or the
are
effects of.
you saying that this oxidative stress is a level of toxicity in our body?
Correct.
Right.
Exactly. Free radicals are effectively toxicity within the body.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Now, what's important to clarify is where are they coming from? So we know that they're coming from obviously the breakdown of oxygen and the release of energy via the mitochondria and so on. But that's the physiological reaction that your body has to to a natural process, which you're obviously not going to want to stop because it's essential for your life. But the things that make these worse are key factors, and
Right.
they are physical stress through exercise, which doesn't mean that exercise is bad, but it does have a negative byproduct to physical stress. But physical stress can also mean exertion at work, for example. It can also be psychological stress, because if you are experiencing a lot of depression, stress from work, stress in a family situation, your hormonal reactions will be impacted, therefore, and you will also release more of the negative free radicals. It's also affected by pollution. That's a big one. Pollution has a massive impact on oxidative stress because that affects your lungs function differently. And then nutrition is a very important one as well. So what you're putting into your body takes a massive toll and for the oxidative stress markers for sure.
Right. Okay. I'm going to ask, I get to ask the silly questions, you know.
Yes,
Um,
good.
is this a new thing, or is this just been part of the physical structure since forever,
Yeah,
or is it just that we know about it
I love
now
that.
and we didn't know before?
Yeah, it's so I was totally the same. I was like, wow, how have I never heard of this? Is this like a new buzzword or something like that? Which, like, antioxidants is a bit of a buzzword, right?
Yeah.
So it's not new. It's absolutely not new. The science of oxidative stress has been around for 40 plus years. So
Okay.
it's a very well established um, principle and concept and science, and it's been adequately researched. Now, if you're listening to this or you're watching it back or whatever, I would literally encourage you, take a look on Google. Type
Yeah.
into Google what is oxidative stress, and you will find millions of hits,
Right.
if not billions. Now, obviously, Google's designed to do that, but these are from reputable locations. These aren't people blogging. These aren't people suggesting it because they do some voodoo. This is medical institutions that will have citations on their website and lots of information about what it is, where it comes from, how best to look after it as well. So there's lots
Right.
to learn out there. It's just not, for some reason, standard practice or shared information that most people know
Right.
about.
So is this something that we will
Oh,
all experience? You know, is this a generalized thing that,
absolutely,
that
100%.
everyone will have to a greater or lesser extent this oxidative stress present in their body?
Exactly. Everyone will experience oxidative stress. Well, what there are actually the way they measure it is obviously through blood testing,
Right.
and every single person experiences oxidative stress throughout their life.
Uh-huh.
What they found is that young people, of the babies, young children, and so on, they're very good at processing, and we get worse and worse as we get older. That's
Right.
just the way it is, right? Our bodies become less efficient at processing free radicals and toxicity the older we become. But it definitely doesn't mean that you can't control it. It definitely doesn't mean that you can't change it. It doesn't mean that, let's say, you're a highly toxic person or you feel like you're quite toxic, that you can't adjust it as well, because it
Yeah.
absolutely can be adjusted by many lifestyle things, which again we will come back to when
Yeah,
we're ready,
sure.
because those types of changes can have a profound effect on your whole system, and it mostly comes down to your oxidative stress markers, and it's a
Right.
very interesting measure.
Okay. I guess that people that are really into the whole sort of health, nutrition, exercise are probably slightly more aware of these kind of things. But for, Joe Public or Jesse Public, I don't want to be sexist here. How would we recognize oxidative stress in our bodies, Marcel?
Yeah, absolutely. So because oxidative stress is kind of like a coverall, it tends to manifest in things that you will experience throughout your life, such as, for example, if you this is why there's a link, shall we say, between oxidative stress and depression.
Okay,
There's a link
right,
between oxidative stress and degenerative joint issues. There's a link between oxidative stress and obesity, because those are all usually manifestations of poor mental health, poor physical health, poor nutritional health.
right,
So oxidative stress is kind of like the coverall indicator that could point you in one direction or another if you continued down a path where you had very high oxidative stress markers. It would then probably result in some form of negative physiological reaction, which could be any number of a long list of things.
right. And you said that the only way of really testing it is through blood tests. Are these kind of things that are done routinely when people go for blood tests, or would they
Yeah.
have to go and get it done specifically?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, not. It's not that commonly measured for. It tends to be measured more, or is frequently measured in medical research and or athletes.
Right. Okay.
If you were to seek out a blood test and ask the testing site, are there indicators for oxidative stress, and they were to say yes, this is what we're looking for, then that would be very handy. But I don't think most people are asking specifically for that. But it is a really good idea to ask, if you're going for a blood test, to ask whether or not there are indications in
Right.
the results that point towards these oxidative stress markers.
Right. So
Yeah.
for me, for example, if I wanted to know what kind of things would I be wanting to look for in my general health and body
Yes.
to
Good.
identify, I need to do something here.
Absolutely. Right. A good sign of it, very first of all, for toxicity generally, is darkness under the eyes.
Right. Okay.
That's a very simple, obvious indication of toxicity and low functioning liver or kidneys,
Right.
which of course are the filtration system. Now that again that can point to many things, of course, but that's a good indication. In addition to that, energy levels.
Right.
Memory. Memory is a very good one. It's a very powerful one. Your memory can be greatly affected by high oxidative stress markers. Lack of
Okay.
sleep or constant fatigue, feeling cloudy headed, tired, but not necessarily sleeping well.
Right.
Insomnia, digestive issues. There are many indicators to look out for. But of course, what's very confusing is, of course, is that when you look at it, you don't immediately think, oh, that must be oxidative stress. You generally think, oh, I've got a stomach ache and I just got a stomach ache, or
Yeah.
I
Or
can't sleep, I'm an insomniac, or
yeah.
whatever. So
I've
yeah,
eaten something that didn't agree with me, and yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, and very often that is a solution, because let's say, for example, you have an intolerance to certain food, your body will react, and that will create an oxidative stress reaction.
Right.
So then you
Okay.
start to create this additional problem with this inflammation that's correlated with oxidative stress, and your body reacts in other ways, not just the stomach. Now it starts to manifest other things like maybe joint pain or headaches, or dark under the eyes, or sleepiness or loss of memory, things like that. So all those things can be affected, but it began somewhere that was triggered by oxidative stress. In another context, it could be you live in a very polluted part of the world, and your body's starting to react to
Right.
the stress that you are absorbing, whether it be through water, whether it be through the air quality, all those different types of things.
Right. So if someone comes to see you, Marcel, obviously they're coming to see you because they feel they've got a problem.
Yes.
What kind of problems would you see, and the little light would come on and go, there's maybe a
Yeah.
problem here with oxidative stress.
Yeah, and this is exactly where the questions, the line of questioning, goes beyond what I have been trained, shall we say, at the beginning of my qualifications, where you have to ask a little bit more detail, like how well are you sleeping? How long do you sleep for? Do you find that you can focus? Is your memory any good? Is it rubbish? Do you react to certain foods? Those types of questions will start to point me in the direction of, or the answers will point me in the direction that this person might be eating fairly badly, or eating at the wrong time, or their joints are indicating that they're reacting to certain foods, or that they're not sleeping as well as they could do. So there's a huge plethora of questions that you could
Yeah.
ask that could absolutely be pointing towards that. Now, of course, age is relevant, lifestyle habits is relevant. If the person is pretty healthy in terms of they regularly take exercise, they tell me some of the food that they eat, then oxidative stress is not necessarily going to be the thing that I think about. Then I'm going to start thinking more about muscular imbalance or things like
Okay.
that.
Right.
That's different. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got your patient there. What would they be presenting with, perhaps, Marcel, that would make you go down this road? What kind of conditions? You're a physical therapist, so if they've got digestive problems, they're not necessarily going to come to you.
Exactly.
So what would they be presenting with that
Yeah.
you would then start to ask these questions and
Yeah.
explore this whole area?
Yeah. I would definitely look at their lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, oxidative stress is very much indicative of a person's lifestyle. If,
Uh-huh.
for example, you are a smoker, if you have a poor diet that is particularly made up of pre-made foods, very much. Oh my god, I've forgotten the word now. Processed foods. Sorry, processed foods.
Are you
It nearly
having
slipped my
you're
mind now.
having memory
Processed.
problems?
That was yeah. I'm having. I'm currently experiencing high levels of oxidative stress. Okay, but it's mostly from you, Bill. Okay, so anyway, I would so you would obviously want to find out if the person has got the darkness under the eyes, for example. That's a good key indicator.
Right.
But sometimes even the quality of the nails, very weak, brittle nails, long-term issues, brittle bones, other than congenital issues. Um, Regular low immunity, those types of things are massive indicators of oxidative stress and obviously the effect that it's having on the body. So it is a very broad area, and
Uh-huh.
it's difficult for any practitioner really to sort of say, right, well, that's definitely oxidative stress. Because it can lead to it can walk you down a path that has almost nothing to do with it. But a patient that would present to me would have
Right.
these
Okay.
multiple aspects of poor sleep, loss of memory, difficulty in focusing, maybe slightly overweight, maybe very overweight, reoccurrence of injury.
Hmm.
Those types of things would be indicators of that for sure.
Right. So they may come to you with example, for example, with some kind of joint pain.
Yeah,
That's when you would start to kind of explore, is it because they tripped over last week and they've just pulled
that's right.
something, or is this something more kind of endemic,
Yeah.
that's leading to the joint pain, for example, that
That's right.
kind of thing.
Exactly right. So I mean, I can think of a client in particular who has reoccurring injuries in the same body part, is overweight, acknowledges that he's overweight, but continues to have disturbed sleep, difficulty in focusing, but does like to play sport whenever possible, but finds that every time he does, he injures himself. So that would be an indication that he is probably suffering. He would be a prime candidate for somebody who needs to acknowledge that oxidative stress is affecting his life.
Right.
So that's the type of characteristic: reoccurring injury, overweight, difficulty focus, maybe a very busy works lifestyle, which he does have, a lot of travel as well. So that those difficulties will definitely add. And unless you're finding ways to literally counteract that toxicity, that stress within your body, that's
Right.
both psychological, physiological, mental, um, and nutritional. It's hard. You've really got to make a concerted effort to control it and overcome it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, Marcel, that this is not just about your work. This is about people in general, and what I've found is that yeah, they come to someone like you, so some kind of practitioner, um, because they've got something that they want you to fix. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you do your stuff, you get your electric charges out, and you massage it, and you get your gun out and knock hell out of it.
Just to clarify, this is a massage gun,
It's a
right? Because I
massage
know,
gun.
yeah, wouldn't want people to get confused by that.
And what they want very often is for you to do all that stuff, and then for them to leave the place, that's it, sorted. And the place you are taking us to here is really not like, I'm going to fix this for you, but I can tell you how to fix it for yourself.
Correct.
And
Exactly.
people are, I think, in general very reluctant to sort of take on board things that require discipline, sacrifice, change of
100%.
lifestyle and habits. Do you come across that sort of thing?
All the time,
Yeah,
all the time. And I think actually it's probably a little less so in this part of the world because I think people are more outdoors, people are more physically active. When I was working in the UK, it was much more prevalent that I would see people exactly that would fit into that category
yeah,
and much less willing to make those lifestyle changes as well, which are so fundamental and have an enormous impact in your long-term life plans. You know,
right,
it's really very, very powerful. But you're absolutely right. In the people will come to me for when they have a problem that is at the tail end of it, rather than going back to the root cause and thinking, well, maybe I should change perhaps the way I work or how often I work or how I'm conducting my business,
right,
whether I have any downtime, am I always connected, do I ever get any time to relax my mind? And so one of the things I do ask a lot of my patients is, what do you do to relax?
right. Okay. Yeah,
Because sometimes I can literally feel their energy and see in their face that they don't relax, they can't relax.
sure, sure.
And one of the things I love to see when I've finished treating my clients is the change in their face, because you can
Right,
literally see, the muscles relax. You can see a smile, obviously, which is really obvious, but you can see color in the cheeks. And it's fascinating. And it's amazing for me because I can literally see it in front of my eyes and they feel like a different person sometimes. And it's,
right.
it's just from being able to relax for what is a very short period of time overall, and the impact that it has, and then obviously recommending that on a regular business, whether that be on a regular time frame,
Sure.
whether that be with me or by themselves,
Yeah.
is tricky to do, because the hardest thing about any therapist's job is getting the clients to do the exercises that have been recommended.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
So
Marcel, we're going to take a short break. When we come
yep,
back, we're going to talk a little bit about, what are these lifestyle changes, or what can we
yeah,
do to tackle this within our bodies.
excellent,
So, back very shortly.
lovely.
Expat Radio. To listen, you don't need to be an expat, and you don't even need a radio.
Your worldwide friend.
Welcome back. I'm Bill Anderson, coming live from the Costa del Sol, a very cloudy Costa del Sol today, with my guest and becoming very well known, I think, around here, Marcel Salazar, physical therapist, talking about oxidative stress in the body. I think you've given us a very good sort of description of how we end up with this, Marcel, and
Yep,
what some of the kind of telltale signs are for it.
yep,
But if we've got it, we really need to know how to deal with it, don't we?
correct.
So
Absolutely, absolutely.
where do we start, Marcel?
Yep. Where do we start? So, if we've identified that we could be suffering from high oxidative stress, now obviously you're probably not going to be diagnosed by the doctor for that, but you might be able to figure it out for yourself. So, it's one of those things. And actually, I've just remembered that the title of them is Oxygen Reactive Species Within a Cell, which is an abbreviation of ROS. That's actually the name of them, ROS. Oxygen reactive species is what's released. Those are the free
Uh-huh.
radicals, if you will.
Okay.
And what you can do is lifestyle changes. And the funny
Mm,
thing is that most people probably now know that these are essential. So if
sure.
we take a topic of, for example, if we take a topic of, let's say, mental health, if we want to try and improve or reduce stress, then we need to identify what those stresses are. It sounds really logical and a bit daft, and I don't mean to patronize anyone, but that's generally what we have to start with. We have to start with the things that cause us the most amount of mental stress.
Right.
So that could be a job. It could be, now obviously there are certain circumstances like your own kids where you just can't do anything about it. And
Yeah,
trust me,
I think you should get rid
trust
of your kids, yes.
yeah, I'm not going to walk that path because that's a tricky one. Now, luckily, I love my kids and they're awesome, but there are moments when anyhow. So if there are other things in life that you can control, like your job or the people in your life, even sometimes your friends, the people you associate with, the people you might go to a bar with,
Right.
it's amazing how often people will go out and hang out with these people simply because they're there, and suddenly realize that they're doing things that aren't particularly good for their health, like drinking more alcohol, shall we say, or they feel competitive, or they feel stressed, or they feel angry by the people that they're with. And it's such a controllable scenario
Sure.
whereby you want to go and have a drink, that's fine, go and have a drink, but don't go where those people are, for example.
Right. Okay.
That's a very simple mental health one. Now, of course, it can get a lot more complicated if we, and this is a very common subject right now, which is depression. Depression is very often related, obviously, to circumstances happening in our lives. Usually, it's as a result of some form of historical trauma that
Right.
manifests in the present day, because of whatever, a trigger of some description, whether that be lack of light, whether that be stress, whether that be an emotional event that occurs, that triggers this reoccurrence of an emotional event earlier in life, or a sad and a bereavement of some description. All of these things. But again, they I'm not saying that it's incredibly easy. Mental health is probably one of the hardest areas to tackle, which is why I mention it first. But it is controllable and it is manageable. And there are people that exist, I'm not saying myself, there are people that exist that can facilitate the control and the improvement of your thought processes, that can lead to better thought processes, which will lead to less stress and less oxidative stress.
Right.
Other things that would be very important would be physical exercise. Again, I think I mentioned this in every
You do.
single video
I
that
know,
we
but
do. And
I thought you were only doing that just to sort of irritate me, you
oh,
know?
I know. Our listeners and you must be like, oh, when's he going to
Here he
stop
goes,
banging on about this
I need to
physical
walk, I need to get out
exercise?
and do things. Yeah.
No, it's very simple, because physical exercise depends on the person.
Yeah.
Physical exercise could be enough to go for a walk for ideally more than 20 minutes every day, and that's enough. It gets the heart rate going, it gets the blood flowing. If you're lucky enough to live where we live, you've got the sea, you've got the sounds, you've got the smells, you've got all of that really healthy, natural, earthy connection that is very, very important. And to reinforce that, what I would suggest absolutely, and this is an environmental stressor, is to try to take yourself out of the digital or synthetic world as much as possible. And what I mean by that is disconnecting your phone for even a short period of time can have a tremendous impact. Not making sure not to sleep with your phone next to your head charging
Right.
whilst connected to Wi-Fi, that's a big one. I would highly recommend that you either charge your phone in a different room or you put it on flight mode overnight. If you have a smartphone now, most smartphones, Apple or Android, will actually have an automated system where it will switch on to airplane mode at a regimented time, and you then switch it off in the morning. And I would highly recommend that you do that for everybody,
Yeah.
because that's very important. Because if you think about it, it's a radio signal, an emitter coming in and
Yeah.
out all night long, and it's right next to your head. And you
But
don't normally have it right next to your head.
yeah, and Marcel, years ago in the UK, I worked in the psychological services, and something that was coming up even then was the amount of electrical equipment that we have surrounding us when we're sleeping.
All the time.
And,
Yeah,
and how our bodies actually respond in a not in a positive way but in a negative way to all these electromagnetic frequencies that are basically all round about us. And if anything, it's got worse since then because, as you say, we've got Fitbits, stuck on our wrist. We've got
absolutely.
mobile phones, as you say, plugged in next to us. We've got electrical, so we've got Wi-Fi all around the house. There are lots of things that add to this disturbance of what I would call our natural clean environment, aren't there?
Correct, correct. And if you think of yourself as energy, and I think most people now recognize whether you are a religious person or not a religious person, or whether you have a belief or not, we're all a form of energy.
Yes, sure.
So if you connect the fact that we as entities are all energetic on some level, then think about all those other energies that are bouncing about all over the place.
Yeah, sure.
And so that has to have an impact. Even if you're a skeptic and you're like, yeah, but there's been around, they've tested it, it's okay, it's safe, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I'm with you. I'm with you with that. I love my tech. I do. I love my tech. But I also recognize that I
Mm.
need to get away from it. And one of the ways that I would recommend, apart from if you're not lucky enough to have the sea or something like that you can go in or listen to or connect with, is to put your feet on grass.
Oh God, yes, yes.
Really, really powerful, more powerful than most people realize. Because if you work in an office or you work at home or you're working in the underground or you're working at your desk, you're constantly surrounded. But if you earth yourself, and it's literally called earthing yourself, if
Yeah,
you go to a place where there's some natural earth, a park, and there's some grass, take your
yeah.
shoes and socks off and put your feet on the ground. And it's crazy. It's crazy how sometimes you can feel it's like you're neutralizing
So
energetic.
discharging bad
Exactly,
energy into
discharging.
the
That's the word I was
yeah.
looking for. Discharging, exactly. Because I mean, if you're lucky enough to have hair, then that would be like this. And if you don't, which mine kind of looks like I'm fully charged at the moment because it's bonkers. So
Yeah.
maybe I should put my feet on some grass and it might sort itself out.
Yeah, listen, Marcel, when Vicky and I are out, it doesn't matter if we're in some kind of park or garden area. That's the first thing she does: take her shoes off.
I knew
If
she
if
would.
we're down near the beach,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, I'm gonna get my feet into this sand, and I mean, she just does it all the time. She walks about here barefoot as well, quite a lot of the time. Uh,
I mean, she's a woman. She's brighter than us. It's the way it's going to be. I mean, that's just the way it
well,
is. That's
there's no
just the way.
there's no question about that.
There's no question of that. Exactly.
Yeah,
They're just brighter. But I mean, connecting as well. Obviously, they're far more energetically aware and connected with the earth. So, it's so important, and that can have a huge impact. And it's so simple and free. It's so
yeah,
simple, and
yeah,
it can impact greatly. Again, this topic of oxidative stress, which is a physiological, and in this case, physiological and mental stress that could be coming from your work environment, from the tech that's around you, and things like that. And so then that leads me into the next one, before I spend too long talking about that, which is nutrition.
yeah, yeah.
And again, I talk about this, I think, in every single video
But
radio
but
show
but
that we
it
do.
was interesting because when you were talking about, for example, maybe when you were in the UK, and one of the things that you mentioned there, and I don't know if this is about lifestyle, was processed foods. Because
Yes,
people have busy lives and they don't have time to spend cooking fresh and
correct,
buying and everything.
correct.
So you did kind of make you sort of allude to that earlier on. Is it different down here, do you think?
It's interesting. I actually think that the way that the world has actually been somewhat constructed at the moment is we're made to believe that we don't have time.
Ah, right.
That's a different thing. That's a different thing. Now, obviously, that people listening would be like, "Oh, well, clearly he's got too much spare time on his hands," and so on. But it's about making time. Now, that
Right.
doesn't mean that I'm perfect at it, but it means that if you prioritize real food, then you will make time. You'll find time. You'll find time to either prepare food to have for the next day, or you'll enjoy making that food at the time and then enjoying it in that day. And that in itself, food preparation, there's a reason why cookery shows are so popular, because they're incredibly cathartic. We love
Right.
watching them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We love it. We love that creation of putting ingredients together and mixing it up and ending up with this great result and so on. And they're so popular because we actually even enjoy watching it, not even
Right.
just doing it. We enjoy watching it, which is bizarre, but I mean, I can find myself zoned out watching MasterChef sometimes thinking, God, that looks amazing. And of course, the end result can look amazing
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. But it's quite cathartic. It's relaxing. You don't feel stressed watching a cookery show. I have
Right.
to say, you don't feel that. So food preparation is very, very important. But then that's a mental side of it. But then putting it into your body, what you're putting in is so important because that's obviously your fuel. So if you're getting these processed foods, which will always be the lowest denomination of quality that you can imagine.
Right.
If you go into a shop thinking, right, I'm going to pick up a nice ready meal here, but I know that it has got very little good for me, and it's just going to maybe taste a bit salty
Yeah.
or fill a gap, then you're probably like, oh, maybe I should just make something because this is basically cardboard, a bit of flavoring, loads
Yeah.
of added salt and sugar. And that's it, really. It's not really giving me anything at all. If you go in with that mindset, rather than looking at the pack saying, wow, that looks beautiful, because obviously the thing on the pack is not what's in the box. So
I know.
we all
I know, but we've got into the habit, we have done for many years now, of when we pick something up off a supermarket shelf, we turn it round and look at the ingredients.
100%.
And if I'm buying, I don't know, let's even say I'm buying a hamburger. What I want in that is meat.
Just me,
I want
mostly.
meat. Yeah, there may be a bit of egg in it, or there may be some breadcrumbs in
Salt,
it,
pepper.
or something like that. But once I pick that up and start seeing things that I don't know what they are, it's like, well, if I don't know what this is, should it be in here?
Or if you can't even read it,
Well,
if you can't even read what it says, it's like, yeah, you're probably going to be better off putting that down. Yeah, not, like 9 times out of 10.
and I'm not promoting one style of eating over another or knocking any other, but we've
Yeah,
looked at, for example, some vegan. It said good for vegans, and
yeah.
looking at it, and it looks like a burger of some sort. And honestly, the number of chemicals that are in this healthy food,
Yeah.
I find it quite scary.
Now, the sad part about that is that veganism is a choice. Um, but when you want to try and find something that is effectively not vegan, veganism literally means everything plant based, nothing animal based.
Yes,
But you then try to bridge that gap by finding something that tastes, looks, and smells like meat, you're going to have this problem. We're going to
right.
have to create something that's synthetic and ends up being highly processed
Yeah,
and not maybe particularly good for you, although it might taste and look very good.
yeah.
And veganism doesn't mean healthy. To be a vegan doesn't mean you are healthy because there are plenty of vegans that I know that have way too much sugar in their diet, way
Okay,
too much.
okay, yeah,
So, it doesn't mean healthy. What it does mean, and it's good that you've segued into this, is that the ingestion of fruits and vegetables is the solution to nutritional oxidative stress.
right. Okay, can you say that again?
So the solution to nutritional oxidative stress is fruits and vegetables,
Right. Okay.
not meat, fruits and vegetables.
Right. So
So
they are doing
preparing,
something right by increasing the amount of fruits and vegetables that
correct.
they're consuming. Yeah.
Correct. A variety. Now, the key to that is variety is essential. As much seasonal variety as you can manage. It's very important that it is seasonal
Yeah.
for various reasons. But seasonal is very important, not just globally for pollution, but also because of your body. Your body reacts better to what's in season rather than eating to what's not in season.
Right.
Chances are it's not even that nutritious anymore because it had to come from somewhere else and stored and travel and blah, blah, blah. So if you get what's in season, chances are it's more local.
Right.
That's better for you and your immunity. It'll be probably more nutritious as well. And you want to try as little as possible to cook it.
Right.
And that's
Okay.
the other part.
Because things do change quite dramatically once they are
You change.
cooked, don't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I
Unfortunately,
know this from things like tomatoes. They become very acidic once they're cooked.
Now,
And
tomatoes are an interesting example. Tomato is actually one of the very few, well, depending on whether you think it's a fruit or a vegetable,
fruit or
whatever.
veg, yeah, let's not
It's
debate it.
one of those that actually changes its nutritional constitution depending on whether it is heated or not, but it is still highly nutritious,
Sure, sure.
which is fascinating. That's really interesting because most fruits and vegetables, their nutritional content reduces with heat.
Right. Okay.
But tomato is one of the few that actually doesn't. It just changes, and it's made it absolutely incredible. But yes, ideally, if you can control the amount of heat applied, obviously there are some things you just can't eat raw, so it doesn't make sense. But if you can control it, eating a raw carrot, for example, will have a big difference to boiling it to within an inch of its life. If it's falling apart on your
Yeah.
fork, if you can't pick it up and it's
Yeah.
crumbling, you've basically obliterated
So,
it.
but
So yeah.
what else? What other advice would you give us, Marcel, about our nutrition? I'm not going to go the exercise route because we all know we should do exercise,
Yeah,
right?
let's not talk about that.
But
It's boring now, I know.
no, but it's important that you keep saying that. In
Yeah,
terms of nutrition,
yeah.
what other advice would you give us in
Well,
terms of the ingestion and the results in
yeah,
terms of free radicals or oxidization?
yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I found very interesting, and I remember this from school, is the division of your plate in terms of fruits, in terms of vegetables, carbohydrates, and proteins, right?
All right, tell us. I don't know that.
Yeah, okay, so I remember at school it was like, mostly protein, but then a little bit of veg, and then maybe some carbohydrates and stuff like that. And I would say make half your plate vegetables.
Right. Okay.
Half your plate is vegetables, and then the other half is whatever you will choose for it to be, whether it be more vegetables or whether you prefer to have meat and then some carbohydrates.
But
Now,
no.
you will get carbohydrates from vegetables,
Yes. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
predominantly, yeah, but then you'll also get protein from vegetables. This is the
Okay.
crazy thing. So if you've got a plate full of beans, you've got a bunch of proteins right there, all plant-based, and they've got phytochemicals. Now, this takes me into another one. The reason why the fruits and vegetables combat oxidative stress is because phytochemicals, which are plant-based chemicals, directly neutralize free radicals.
Right. Okay.
So that is a really interesting science. And actually, I've been working with a supplement that I think I've mentioned before that is a concentration of fruits and vegetables and berries, and you can ingest that directly. So it's got a huge combination of fruits, vegetables, and berries, and it's reduced into a capsule, and it's just the dry form of it.
Right.
So it's a bit like putting it all in a blitzer, putting like 1.5 kilos of fruits and vegetables in a blitzer, drying it, making it into like a paste, and
Right.
then crumbling it into a powder, and then you just neck it. And it's brilliant. And I've been working with them for 6 years. I think it's one of the best products, supplements, because if you're one of those people that struggles with fruits, vegetables, or berries, or you feel like you just don't get enough, most of us don't get enough. That's the reality of modern nutrition,
Yeah.
or malnutrition, should I say? Then that's a huge way, a very important way of making sure you get what you need into your system. Because a lot of people in the West are surprisingly malnourished because of the quality of what they're eating or lack thereof.
Marcel, we are rapidly running out of time.
No way.
I really appreciate you coming. You've tackled a very complicated subject, I think, today, but something that affects all of us to a greater or lesser extent.
Yeah.
And well, I'm going to ask you if you'll join us at the end of next month or in a month's time and pick up on another one of these topics. Does that sound okay?
I think I will.
Right. We're going to be going out in just 30 seconds. And, well, I had a birthday this week, so I only get one shot to play this song, and it has to be from the Beatles. And can you guess what it's going to be?
Yellow Submarine.
No. Dave, I think we're just about time to take out, and we're going to have the Beatles When I'm 64. Thank you, Marcel.
Very happy birthday.
Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.